Hi, I'm Steve from Flow Self-Improvement and welcome to my New Year's resolution self-improvement series. This is the second section of part 1 on goal setting. Now firstly, just to recap one of the main points that I emphasised in the first part of the goal setting clip is the importance of having something to aim for in life, the importance of having a target. And you may remember that I said, without a target to hit, let's just say we're talking about an archer here shooting arrows, without a target to hit, he's just shooting arrows off into the air. But when he's got a target, he's got something to aim for, and life's exactly the same. Without a target or a goal, we've got nothing to strive for, and we haven't got a target to hit. So in this second part of goal setting, we're actually going to get our goals down on paper, and then we'll have our target in place and we've got something to move towards. Okay? Now, the most important and most exciting and most miraculous thing about mine and your life and everybody else's life is that we have the power to change the direction we are heading in our lives at any given moment. You may not have given that much thought before, but it's not until that really sinks into your mind that you can really start making progress. So you have the power at any time to make a change in your life and head in a completely different direction. So you could decide to do something different right now, and in 5 years' time, you're going to end at a completely different place to where you would if you didn't make that change. That's very powerful, isn't it? So if you're not happy with where your life is at the moment, you can make a couple of small little tweaks and arrive at a completely different place in 5 years' time. You could make a couple of really large changes and end up somewhere hugely different in 5 years' time. It's when you start to really understand that this stuff really gets exciting and you really get motivated to get onto the path and stick to it. Now, I was listening to the ABC radio yesterday, and Wilbur Wilde, you might know him, he used to play the saxophone in the Hey Hey It's Saturday band years ago, and I was just listening to an interview with him. And he's actually quite a serious character in a one-on-one interview. And he stated a quote by Primo Levi, which was, "Our lives are a result of all of our decisions." Quite simple, isn't it? But you have a think about it. Every single decision you and me have made in our lives have led us to the point we are at now. So if you're not happy with your life and you look back, you can really start to point out some of the poor decisions you have made that have got you to where you are. And I'm guessing if you're watching this clip, you're not exactly extremely happy with where you are. I'm guessing you're chasing a bit of improvement. So right now, in this clip, this goal setting clip, and the clips that I've got following, are a step-by-step process of how to change those decisions, and especially this clip I'm making tonight about getting your goals down on paper. You can make the decisions right now and then kick in some self-discipline and some motivation from me and get on your process of heading for these new goals, and in 5 years' time you could arrive at a completely different point than you are currently heading to now with the life that you are living. And that point could be extremely exciting. You have the power. Nobody else can do this for you. You have to do it yourself. You can speak to as many counsellors or life coaches or psychologists or anyone to try and get your life on track. But at the end of the day, it's the decisions you make yourself that are going to get you to that point you've always wanted to achieve. So for me, it's really powerful to think that I may be speaking to someone now through this camera who's really taking this on board and making some really positive steps in their life. I've, as you've probably heard or read through some of my stuff that I've been putting online, I've had some massive positive changes over the last 5 or 6 years. And that's what I want to do. I want to share that with you and help you come along for the ride. So I want you to take this really seriously and follow these tips and get stuck into it, and leave a comment and let me know if you are coming along on board and if it's working for you, okay? So, how does having a goal work? You would have heard people banging on about having goals for years. You may have just pushed it aside and thought, oh, I'm not going to worry about that. Or you may have tried it and it just didn't work for you. Well, I'm going to use an example here, and hopefully you will recognise it and you will have seen it work this way in your own life. Now, I'm going to use the example of purchasing a car. When I go to buy a car, I'm really quite anal and fanatical about making sure I get the perfect car for my needs at the right price, and that I'm not getting ripped off. So I research the hell out of the cars, but only when I'm buying them. I'm not a car freak by any means. But for example, last time we were buying a family car. So we were looking at SUVs. So I look at all the different SUVs and I'll focus my attention on one at a time, have a bit of a research about that car, read about its problems, have a look at the price range we should be looking at, and see if that's the car for us. And if it's not, I move on to another make, okay? But when I'm looking at a specific make, and one I was looking at last time was a Hyundai Santa Fe, I think that's what they are. When you're researching them, and then you go out on the street living your everyday life, all of a sudden you'll realise all you're seeing is Hyundai Santa Fe's. You'll start to think, shit, I had no idea there were so many on the road. Because you are focused on it, it's all you're seeing, okay? And that's what goal setting, that's how goal setting works. When you sit down and get serious and really get your goals down on paper, some really meaningful goals, and you're really ready to change your life has no choice but to move in that direction. You'll start seeing things come into your life that are focused towards you achieving your goal. Now, those things would have been there anyway, but if you didn't put your goal down, you wouldn't notice them and they'd just slip by you. But it's because you've put your goal down, when these opportunities, chance meetings with people come your way and they've got something to do with your goal, you're aware of them and you grab them and you start dragging them in, and it all starts the process of and speeding up the process of you moving towards your goal. Does that make sense? Just like when you're purchasing a car and when you're looking at one brand, all of a sudden they're all you see on the road. When you get your goals down on paper and you focus on that goal every day, and we will be looking at techniques on how to do that, all of a sudden little coincidences and things pop up in front of you that you wouldn't have seen if you didn't put your goals down on paper, and you start gathering them in, and this helps the process move along. And hopefully, if you stick to the plan and show a bit of self-discipline, you can start to see this happen down the track. Now, the next question is, how do I stick to my goals? Right. Well, the most important thing, and I'll write this down because it's extremely important. You must write them down. Your goals must be written down on paper. Our memories aren't that good. How many times have you thought, I need to change X, Y, Z in my life? and the next day you're flitting off on another idea, and the next day you're flitting off on another idea. Until you've written them down on paper, you are not serious about your goals. So ideally, step number one, you really want some change in your life. You are really hungering for some change. When I'm talking to a person who is starving for some change in their life, who are hungering for some change in their life, that's the person I'm after. And then step two, write your goals down on paper, okay? And in the next little segment, I'm going to show you how to write them down. Now, once you've written them down, stick them on the wall. I have mine stuck on my wall of my office where I am every day. Now, I may not look at it every day, but maybe once a week I'll just glance at it and read through it again. And it just reinforces it in your mind and it helps the process flow along. If the goals aren't written down, you will not stick to them. Make sure they are written down, they are stuck on the wall somewhere where you can see them all the time. Now, ideally, well, this is what I believe and this is what I do. I don't share them with anyone. Your goals are very personal. It could be a long-term process. It's something you need to keep to yourself and just quietly work away at. Goal setting, achieving goals is a very personal thing. So how do I know which goals to set? I know you've been wanting to ask that question from the very beginning. It's very hard when you sit down with a pen and paper just to write down a goal. So I'm going to give you a bit of a template that'll help you. But what I want to stress here is, and this is something that I really promote, think about what your perfect day would look like. Now, when we're setting goals, set them nice and high. Really challenge yourself. It doesn't matter if you don't hit them at the very top level. Even if you hit them at 50%, you're still achieving a lot more than you're achieving now. If you hit them at 25%, in a few years' time, you're still going to be progressing a lot more than you are now. So aim really high. Think about everything that you want, what you need. So a strategy I use, as I've suggested, think about how your perfect day would look. If you were to get up in the morning and have your perfect day, how would it look? Take this seriously. Spend a lot of time thinking about it. Now, if you put a group of those perfect days together, how would your week look? How would your month look? How would your life look? Now, once you've achieved that, you can look at how your perfect life would look if everything was working to your plan. Think about when you were a child and the amazing dreams you had when you used to use your imagination, before you became a boring adult. What did you always want to do? Well, why can't you do it now? So sit down, think about that perfect life. What would it look like? But now, for the fatal trap that a lot of goal setters make. They jump straight on the money bandwagon. Give me money, I want money. I want to be swimming on a tropical island in a pool full of money with my Ferrari parked out the front and cocktails laid on everywhere. But is that realistic? Is that what's going to give you happiness? And more importantly, if you had that money laid on, how would you handle it? Do you know how to handle that sort of quantity of money? Are you educated on how to handle that quantity of money? Or would you need to get yourself educated before you can handle that sort of money? We're talking about finding life fulfillment here. When you're picturing your perfect life, would sitting around having bucket loads of money, really be the solution you're after? We need to give this a hell of a lot of thought. What about your family? What about friends? What about the community? What about your health? Something I find really interesting. We have been tuned and trained into this thought process that we work hard all of our life. And unfortunately, some of us, a large majority actually, work in jobs we hate till retirement age. And we are trained all of our lives to think we'll work our pants off, and then when we get to retirement age, we'll have plenty of money to buy a caravan and go tripping around Australia, or we'll travel the world. But realistically, if you think about it now, are you going to be fit enough to do that at retirement age? Are you going to have enough money at retirement age to do that? What's the point of being stuck in a job you hate now if when you reach retirement age, due to poor life choices, you're not able to do all those things you're planning to do now at this younger age because you're fit enough now? You've got to think well, I'm 45 and I can't ever imagine retiring. I think I'll work till I die, but let's just say I retired at 65. That's another 20 years. Am I going to be fit enough to do all that stuff? Should I start living life a little bit now? We've got all these things to think about. So now I'm going to put the template on the board and I'm going to show you how to actually get these goals down on paper. Are you starting to have a bit of a think about what it is that would really fulfill your life? What would give you the perfect day, the perfect week? What would the perfect year look like? What would the perfect life look like? How does your life with your family look when it's perfect? How does your life in the community look? How does your fitness and health look? Think about all those things. It's not all about money. Yes, money gives us a lot of good things. Money gives us happiness. But money also gives us a lot of unhappiness if it's not used properly. So have a real good hard think. Don't be naive about this. Right, now hopefully you're taking this really seriously and you've given this a hell of a lot of thought. To do this properly, you'll need to probably take some time after you've watched this clip. I'd really like you to. And, maybe even spend up to a week thinking about this, because if you're taking this as seriously as I'd like you to, this is the point where your life is about to change for the better. This could be the point where everything accelerates for you in a positive, great direction if you follow these tips. And the clips that I've got coming up in the future will, I'll keep doing them regularly, will show you little tips and tactics to stay on this path, okay? Now, this is a template that I've used. When setting goals and putting them down on paper, there's many ways you can do it. You can just list 1 to 10 of things that you want to do. But I actually stole this one from a guy by the name of Vishen Lakiani. And it's about 3 years ago I saw him show this one. I think it was on impact theory. And it really caught my eye, and I used it 3 years ago, and it's pretty interesting to have a look at it now and see how I've progressed from putting that list down on paper. So I can tell you right now that this process does work if you take it seriously. So this is the template that Vishen uses, and it works really well. So in the first column, what experiences do I want to have in life? So it's not exactly how your perfect life looks, but if you give this a lot of thought and list your experiences down that you really want to have, that will be your perfect life, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So this is what I'm saying. Really give this a lot of thought. Now, I'm going to give you an example of one of mine. I'm not going to share my list because, like I said earlier, it's very personal. personal. But one thing that really spurred me along on my life change was, maybe 6 years ago, I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. I've got 10-year-old and 7-year-old boys. And I love surfing. I'm a surfer. And my life was going down the gurgler health-wise. I was an alcoholic. I was just living a crap lifestyle, eating rubbish. I was overweight, still managing to surf, but not very, quite a good surfer because I've surfed all my life, but my health had just poured me down the gurgler as far as my surfing goes. And it dawned on me one day that because I was quite an older parent when we started having kids, by the time my kids are teenagers, I'm not going to be able to enjoy surfing and things with them because I'm going to be not fit enough to be doing it myself. And it was a real slap in the face. So one of the things I have in this first column, and this is the only thing I'm going to share with you, is I want to surf waves all over the world with my boys. Now just imagine that. I don't know if you're a surfer, but you can imagine that. I have this image of, and we will have a look at a bit of visualization, but I have this vision of being on a yacht trip in Indonesia with watching my two boys surf perfect waves. That would just really hit it off for me. So in this column, what experiences do you want to have in life? Think about what would really tick it off for you. Now I have quite a list of things that I want to experience in life. So think about how your life would be the best. What would need to be in your life to make the experience absolutely incredible? You've only got 80 years or so on this planet, so really make it the best. Aim high in this column. Where are you going to get yourself? Where are you going to push yourself to? Where are you going to challenge yourself to? And it's totally up to you. Now think about where you're at now. How far away are you from achieving those things? Are you heading totally in the wrong direction? Now's the time to make those couple of changes and push it in a positive direction. Okay, now let's move on to the second column. I think you've got the gist of this. Now, this isn't something you write down in 5 minutes. It takes a hell of a lot of thought. It could take days, it could take a week, it could take a month. But you get the idea. This is a very important document. Now, in the second column, this is the most important section. This is challenge. This is hard work. This is what I'm all about. And as you have heard me talk about, it's through challenge, it's through struggle that we really achieve the greatest satisfaction. And this column is, how do I have to grow to achieve this? So let's look back at my first one. I want to surf perfect waves all over the world with my two boys. How am I going to have to grow to achieve this? How am I going to have to change to achieve this? Whoa, that's a big, big thing to ask. So at the point where I did this, I need to defeat my alcohol addiction. What a challenge. What else am I going to have to change if I'm going to achieve this? I must work on my fitness daily. Whoa, that's huge. And as you can see, this list can go on and on and on. And That's only one of the experiences that I want to have. So you can imagine this list can get quite detailed and quite long. Now, as you can see, this one, I must work on my fitness daily. Well, that's all good. So probably the best way to do it, do your first one up as a rough draft and then do a second one, because there will be a lot of scribble and stuff on this first one, and tidy up your second one because it could be hanging on your wall like mine for years. Okay, very important document. Now, before I go on to tidying this up, let's have a look at the last column. Now, I thought this was a bit crazy when I first saw Vishen do it, but it's extremely important. How am I going to give back to the world? Now, let's just go back a step to the money thing. How everybody, naive people that haven't had any training on goal setting, just tend to go, I want dollars, I want this, I want holidays, I want cars, I want... It's all about me, me, me. You are not going to find fulfillment in life when you are just digging to try and get more and more and more for yourself. You need to give as well. There's an old saying, you need to give to get. And this is so true. The more you give, the more you get. And we want to get plenty, okay? So you need to give. How are you going to give back to the world? What are you going to do? Are you going to volunteer to do something? Are you going to spend more time with your kids? Are you going to learn a skill that you can teach people down the track? How are you going to give back to the world? As you can see, if you spend the time and fill this form out properly and then get to work on doing it, you're completing the whole package. This is the fulfillment document. It's not about a slight bit of happiness. If you can get all this into action and into play, let's just say you get to work on it, imagine how your life would be looking in 10 years' time. You would really be achieving some of these experiences. And believe me, in my 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this, I've had a few experiences where all of a sudden it's dawned on me and thought, wow, this is exactly like my list. It's quite remarkable. So now let's get on to the second draft. So after you've scribbled it down, you've got everything down, and you look at it and you read it, and it's quite daunting because you will have some massive challenges to undertake. Break the challenges down a little bit. So let's just look at, I must work on my fitness. Well, let's get a little bit more detailed about that. What are you going to do? Maybe do 4 dot points of what you're going to do every day. Maybe it's a half-hour walk. Maybe it's go to the gym for 20 minutes. Maybe it's 2 days a week at the gym. I don't know. But write down a schedule, just a little schedule, and then get on to your next point. So it's a little bit detailed. Tidy it right up. In this very important column, maybe list the items in the importance or what you're capable of doing. So maybe I need to defeat my alcohol addiction is not what you need to have at number 1. For me it was. I just jump into things and get stuck into them. Maybe you start off a bit more simple, like I must walk every morning, and then work to the bigger challenges if that's what you need. But give it some serious thought, because once this thing is down on paper, it's your Bible. It's what you're living by, okay? And it must be stuck on the wall for you to read regularly. Okay, so that's the end of the goal setting part of my series. And I suggest you get onto it now. The sooner you start, the sooner you will see results. Just give me a month. Just have a crack at this and try it for a month and start to see a few of the results. What else have you got to do with your time? How much time are you wasting? You can start to think about this now, and maybe on the weekend, get pen to paper and get those goals down. It feels amazing. I bet you've never ever written anything down like this before. If you use the template that I used, it works really, really well. Spend the time, get them down on paper, and you'll feel amazing because you'll have something to strive for, something to head for. Now, I've got some really exciting clips to come forward now. I just wanted to get that goal setting section out of the way, and now I'm going to teach you some really interesting life skills that will help you along your path. But it is essential, if this is going to make sense to you and this is going to work for you, that you follow these steps. And step one, or part one, get the goals down on paper, okay? Please feel free to leave a comment here. I'll get back to you with an answer straight away if you need some assistance. But please, come along for the ride. This could change your life. Let's do it together. Thanks. I'm Steve from Flow Self Improvement, and I'll get my next clip up ASAP. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel as well. Cheers.